One of the most important parts of learning a language is the grammar and how to structure our sentences. Without it, we will have a hard time communicating and making grammatically correct sentences. And one problem I had for the longest time was not knowing how to learn grammar point and sentence structure efficiently. And with time, I discovered new ways and techniques to better practice grammar points so I don't have to construct the sentence in my head before saying it. When learning a grammar point or a sentence structure, we have to understand the context of this grammar structure. So it's good to learn it in a text, in real life conversation, or with a bunch of practice sentences to really get the meaning of the grammar points. And when learning in context, it's easier to retain and help make links between the situation and the grammar point. And one thing we should also be careful of is not entirely relying on our native language translation. While this translation can help us understand, it will not always carry the true meaning. It's often a close enough meaning to make you understand it, but we could miss out on some part of this grammar. This is why it's best to learn it in real life context so we can grasp the concept of the grammar point and really get familiar with how to use it, when to use it, with whom to use it. For example, in Chinese, there is this particle that confuses a lot of learners, and it's the la particle. The la particle does not have a translation of itself. It means the past or a change of state. We will use the translation to help us understand, but if we use the particle directly in real context, a real life situation, it will help us understand the concept more and retain more. If you are a more advanced student, you can watch movies and pick up all the grammar points they're using, see how they're using it in the movie, etc. It can be really useful and fun at the same time. Our next point is learn in sentences. Make sentence and learn them. In the same idea of learning the grammar point in context, we should learn also in sentences. It's better to learn whole sentences directly instead of just the grammar point or the grammar rules. When we are first introduced to a grammar point, we will be introduced to a grammar structure, grammar rules, a sentence pattern, but learning those by heart is not what will make us fluent and more natural when we are talking. We should take the time to understand the grammar point or the pattern and then make our own practice sentences or take the practice sentences in the book and learn those. The goal here is to be able to use the grammar point in real life conversation without really thinking about it. And when we will want to use the grammar point in other situations, we will just have to take the sentence we already know and modify them. It's like having pre-made sentences that you just have to modify when you want to say something else. Really cool, very practical, very demure, very mindful. There is a lot of sample sentences in notebook, in textbook, but it's really, really important to make our own practice sentences about our own life, about a movie we watch, so we can get used to using this grammar point in our daily life. So yeah, I usually make a bunch of practice sentences. I like to say to myself that for each grammar point, I have to make 5 to 10 practice sentences, but I really start having fun with it. I take the practice sentences for the textbook, I modify them. When you do your practice sentences, try to use all the ways you can use a grammar point. I'm not saying you should try and learn every way you can use a grammar point, but focus on the ones you already know and try to make practice sentences with those. For example, in Chinese, 尽管 means feel free to do something, or it means although. And so when I learned this grammar point, I made sentences with the meaning of feel free to take more, feel free to call me, and I made sentences with although. Although he was sick, he still came to work. Although he didn't like the outfit, he still bought it. Just making sentences with different meanings and getting used to the whole nuances of the grammar point. Now we know how to better learn and understand a grammar point, but how do we really review it? Flashcard is one of the obvious ways, but how do we do it the right way? So when doing our flashcard, we should think about the same idea of learning in sentences instead of isolated grammar points. When I first started to learn Chinese, I was trying to learn only the sentence pattern or the grammar structure in my flashcard and I didn't make a whole sentences. Like I said earlier, learning the sentence pattern, the grammar rules is really useful to help us understand. But when we want to do flashcard or review the grammar point, it's better to do it in whole sentences directly to get used to the flow of the grammar point in the sentence. Because by just learning the sentence structure or the grammar rules, you will constantly have to construct the sentence in your head before and then saying it. So kind of breaking the flow, making it less fluent. After I started learning with sentences directly is when I started being able to make the sentences directly and more naturally than when I was learning just the pattern. For example, in Chinese, I kind of had a hard time learning the particle ba. When I was just trying to learn the rules, it will not stick. And when I started learning with 我把我的手机弄丢了, when I started doing that, it was easier for me to grasp the concept and remember how to use ba. And now the ba structure is really easy for me and I can use it in different ways and not really think about the rules. And it's as simple as adding in your flashcard decks sentences with the grammar points directly. Apart from flashcards, I have this exercise I like to do to practice making sentences out loud with the grammar point. So I have this little notepad with all the grammar points I learned. One side is the Chinese sentence pattern, the Chinese grammar point, and the other side is the explanation. For the moment, I'm still doing it in English, but I'm trying to transition more in Chinese explanation without relying really on English translation. So I will often take the explanation side and try to remember how to say this in Chinese, and then I will flip the card and I will see, oh, this was the sentence pattern, the grammar point I can use to convey this meaning. I will make the sentences out loud to practice like thinking and making the sentences. It's a really fun and casual way to practice when you don't feel really like sitting down and practicing, but you can also make up stories, and in your story you try to use every single grammar point you learn just to make it fun, like a game. How can I make all those grammar points fit in one story? Practice a lot and be patient. A lot of the time when we see a new grammar point we are not familiar with, we can feel like we will never be able to use it naturally or without having our notebook next to us. But the more you practice, the more you're gonna remember it, the more it's gonna become natural for you. So take your time, don't put so much pressure on it. If you keep practicing and never giving up, you'll finally be able to be like, I speak fluently Chinese, because you were patient and you practiced a lot. And finally, one of the most fun parts is try to hear it or to find it in the content you watch or consume. So expose yourself a lot to the language and you will be able to hear a lot of the things you're learning in your lesson in real life stories or even in fiction. It's so fun. So try listening to podcasts, watching movies, reading books in your target language, and try to hear and recognize the grammar structure, the sentence pattern, the new vocabulary, and be like, oh, I know these words. Personally, I love watching Chinese drama, and it's always so fun to hear the grammar points or the vocabulary or the sentence pattern you learn in the drama you're watching. It's really satisfying because you're like, oh, I'm not learning it for nothing. Your brain will automatically give more importance to those grammar points and you will remember it more. In conclusion, make sure to not be lazy and really understand the meaning of the grammar point so you don't misuse it. And you will see that at some point, some grammar points will help you understand other grammar points, because often it's kind of the same structure and you will start to learn them faster because you will start understanding the way the language works, and you will be able to, without really studying or really trying to see, oh, the subject is coming before this and this has to come before the verb, you will start having this feeling of, this is how we say it. Just because you study other grammar point that was kind of the same as another grammar points. That's all. If you're interested in more videos about language learning, make sure to subscribe to my channel, and I see you next time. Goodbye. Bye-bye.
Wanna make you happy, and then she goes, 나만 혼자 남겨뒀어 대화가 필요해